This portion of the Steve Friedman Show was sponsored by West Coast Video.
You know, tonight is really a very, very special night for me for a lot of reasons. And if you're one of the millions of Star Trek fans out there, I'm sure it's going to be a special night for you, too. My special guest has appeared in more than 4,000 radio shows, more than 400 live and taped TV shows and movies. In real life, he's a decorated soldier, a native of Canada, an honorary Scotsman, and to say the least, a citizen of the galaxy. He's one of the handful of actors whose face is instantly recognizable to millions of people around the world for the role he created back in 1966, Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott of the USS Enterprise, better known to all of his fans as Scotty, Mr. James Doohan. Jimmy, welcome.
I certainly do like, before I finish, and I'll be off in a couple of seconds, of course. Before I finish, I would like to give everyone a Scottish toast, which I'll say a couple of times, and then I'll translate it, but I'll do it later, all right? When you decide to kick me out.
Absolutely. Well, actually, as far as I'm concerned, that's not going to be until sometime next week, so depending on how many people out there want to talk to you.
I'm never going to get any sleep tonight. This laddie here, Steve, he starts his show awful late in the morning.
We're trying to change that, but in the meantime, there are hundreds of thousands of people out there who love movies and have no place to talk about them, so I guess that's why they hang around here.
Well, let's see what we can do for them, okay?
It's a pleasure to have you here, it really is. I know that everybody drives you crazy wherever you go, but you have a reputation for being such a gentleman with your fans, and I appreciate you putting on the Scottish accent. How many times today were you asked to do it?
Only about 3 times, but you see, it's very expensive for them when they ask me to do it, because I charge something like $50 a syllable, and that's very expensive, but, the poor dears, I give it to them for nothing.
Well, I know...
All they have to do is ask for it, you see.
That's terrific. Yeah. I know that you're in the Delaware Valley touring the West Coast video stores, and I imagine you saw thousands and thousands of your fans today.
Yeah, we had a lot of people around there, and it just went on and on. Unfortunately, I was able to get to the last store early, because actually we mistimed the traffic, and so we got to the last store early, and we ended up with all the employees, and we had a great time.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know that tomorrow you're going to be going to the West Coast Video in Abington, 1742 Old York Road.
Actually, starts at 11 o'clock.
That's from 11 to 1, right?
Right.
And then you're going to the Cottman Avenue store from 3 to 5?
Right.
They really making you hustle around here. And then 6 to 8 in Andorra, the Andorra shopping.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. First of all, it's a pleasure to meet you. Last night when we all went to dinner, not only did I have a great time, but I know that you surprised the daylights out of me. Not only are you the gentleman that everyone says you are, but the Star Trek phenomenon, as you know better than anybody out there, is going to make you much more famous than anybody on Hill Street Blues or any of the prestige shows around town. It is true, isn't it, that the 7 or 8 key members of the Star Trek cast will be immortalized? I mean, you already have become immortalized.
There's no doubt about it, yeah, because it's shown all over the world. In I don't know how many different languages, but I was told today that it went into the Portuguese in 1969. But a couple of years ago, I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a man in the elevator with me said, "We see you in Brazil." And I said, "Oh, that's very strange." I said, "I as yet don't have any fan mail from Brazil." That was on a Sunday. I was home on a Tuesday, and darned if there in the mail wasn't my first fan letter from Brazil.
That's great. I wonder if they dubbed your Scottish accent in
Oh, no.
Spanish.
No, even the Germans don't bother to try and do that. No, as a matter of fact, I met the fellow with the German voice, and I have not met, but I have a picture of the fellow who does my voice in Japanese. And he looks very much like me. There's something strange about the eyes, but he looks very much like me, and except that he's about 6 inches shorter. And
like Captain Kirk.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, we're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. Hopefully you'll answer some of them without being
I'll try to do it all as diplomatically as I can.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, we're going to talk to you about some of your movies. The Satan Bug, I brought a couple things in here to surprise Jimmy.
Oh, you did.
And Bus Riley's back in town, the Wheeler Dealers. But I know that there are only a couple of million people out there who want to ask you questions. So if it's all right with you, will go to the phones.
Sure.
And I can't be responsible for anything that happens, but I will warn you, he's one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah, I got a telephone call. I got a telephone call from a fan I haven't seen in about 7 or 8 years. Her name's Floss Del Vecchio, and she's probably listening right now, except that she's here in Philadelphia.
Well, I hope Floss manages to get through. In the meantime, if you want to join me here, you want to ask Jimmy Doohan a question. And by the way, you do like being referred to as Jimmy.
Oh, yeah, that's my name.
Very, very...
It's worked very well for Jimmy Stewart, you know.
Yes, actually.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. Yes, although Stuart Granger, whose real name is Jimmy Stewart, had to change his. So it didn't work too well for him. But as long as it works for you. Absolutely, sure.
You see, if you want to know all about movies, you come to Steve Friedman.
Bless you.
Right? And ask the questions. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tune in. Are you over in California?
We're working on it, seriously. Meanwhile, if you have a question for Jimmy Doohan, please give me a call at 839-1210 in Philadelphia and the suburbs, or in South Jersey at 541-1210. The crew of the Enterprise is accepting a visitor from West Coast Video.
Captain, we are beaming him up right away.
Kirk, the transporter room.
Hi, Captain Kirk. He's a strange one. Yes, hello, and greetings from West Coast Video.
Yes, what can we do for you?
Well, at West Coast Video, we have many Star Trek fans, and they sent me to ask you if you might visit West Coast Video in person.
Jim, may I make a logical suggestion?
Do we have a choice?
Sensors indicate that Mr. Scott has vacation time coming. We could beam him down to West Coast Video.
Scotty?
Hi, Captain. It would be an honor to meet West Coast Video's customers, but do they all look like this one? Only the lucky ones.
James Doohan, Star Trek Scotty, beams down to West Coast Video, Saturday, June 22nd, at the Penn Farm, Oxford Valley, and Wilshire Boulevard stores. Sunday, June 23rd, at the Abington, Cotton Avenue, and Dora Shopping Center stores. Plus, get Star Trek 1 and 2, just $39.95. Star Trek 3, $29.95. TV episodes, $14.95. All from Paramount Home Video and West Coast Video. Air transportation courtesy of TWA. Meeting Mr. Scott would be highly logical.
Call your local West Coast Video to find out what time Scotty's beaming down.
It's 12:15 here on WCAU AM News Talk Radio. I'm Steve Friedman. They call me Mr. Movie. I know you know all that. The most important thing about tonight is that we've got Jimmy Doohan. That's Scotty from Star Trek, in case you don't know. And obviously, if you're one of the millions of people out there who has loved Star Trek since its inception in 1966, you know who he is. And I'm going to stop talking right now and go to the phones because Jimmy has got thousands of people who want to talk to him. Let's see if we can find John here. Morning, John. You're on WCAU AM with Jimmy Doohan.
Hello, Steve.
How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Jimmy?
Just fine, thank you, laddie. How are you?
Good. I saw you over West Coast today. Got an autograph.
Oh, very well. What was your name?
It was for John and Denise.
Oh, there were too many of those.
You got a question for Jimmy?
Yeah, there's a couple. Most importantly, do you regret the fact, finally, that you were kept up Scotty all these years?
Well, I did regret it for quite a while there, but up until about 7 or 8 years ago, when a good friend of mine told me, he says, Jimmy, he says, you just have to take it a little easier because I got to run under the collar, you know, and they weren't writing any parts for Scotsman, but I wasn't getting any parts. And but he told me, he says, you just cool it. He said, you are going to be Scotty for the rest of your life, and for many, many years afterwards, people will remember you as Scotty. So I said, okay, that was it. And since then, it's been a ball. Okay?
Yeah, one other thing,
Very quick, if you can, Bob.
Star Trek 4, do you have any idea what you found about that one?
Actually, no. They don't let out any information about it, except that the first slide was turned down, so they're working on a better one.
Even New Enterprise.
Absolutely. Well, maybe. That's only if we stick to the sequel idea.
I see.
I've got a better idea.
John, thanks for calling.
Okay, thank you now. Bye.
Appreciate it. By the way, John asked you the big question. Obviously, I was going to get to that a little bit later. Everybody wants to know, and of course they've been driving me crazy, and I've been driving everybody else crazy about what's happening. And last night we talked, and you kind of laughed about it. I said, for once and for all, you killed the rumor, because everyone seems to think that all of you, the principals in the cast, know something that we don't know. So please.
No, we really do not know, unless we're terribly inquisitive, and no one who has a chance of, shall we say, renegotiating with Paramount is the least bit interested in what the next movie is about. You must understand what I'm saying, okay? I am not the least bit interested in the next movie. All I know is that I want more money. Because Mr. Shatner got his, and I'm going to get more.
Yeah, William Shatner is one of the major topics of discussion when Star Trek is mentioned. And without getting yourself in trouble, I have discussed the fact that Shatner had a bit of an ego problem at one time, and that Leonard is one of the nicest people, supposedly, anyone's ever...
What do you mean at one time?
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
All right, now you heard that from Jimmy Doohan. Okay. Yes, I understand that Bill Shatner does have a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Leonard doesn't.
Delighted to hear that.
Leonard is gorgeous. He's a beautiful man to work with.
And
As a director, as an actor, as a human being, he's a beautiful man to work with. And I can't say the same for some other people.
well, Leonard has, in interviews, said exactly the same thing about you, and also about Nichelle, and certainly about Dee Kelly.
Yeah.
I don't remember what he said about Walter Koenig. He certainly said the same thing about George Takei.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Walter, he's a dual Russian, you know, and he has to be cheered up every now and then.
I see.
You know, but that's all right.
Well, he did pretty well in Star Trek 2.
You're darn right.
Absolutely.
A very good part, certainly. Absolutely. He's quite proud of that, but, you know, they can't give the good parts out all the time. You know, I think it's George's turn now for a good part. And Uhura's turn for a good part.
Yes, although she got a little bit to do in the last film.
Yeah, but...
So, of course, she didn't go along on the mission at all. No. Let me ask you one last thing, and then we'll go right back to the phones and try to take as many calls as we can. So, the first caller, John, asked you about typecasting, and obviously there is a major dichotomy there, because you are going to be associated with this role forever, but it obviously has kept you from certain things.
Yeah, but Steve, it's very nice to be famous all over the world.
Absolutely.
You know, and you have to weigh one thing against the other. And certainly the very fact that you're famous all over the world, it gives you an awful lot of travel time. And I'm a good traveler, and I like traveling. As a matter of fact, I found out that the best way to beat the jet lag is to do an awful lot of traveling. Back and forth and back and forth, and before you know it, you can go to London and sleep at 11 o'clock that night.
Well, you have an affinity for flying anyway. A little later in the show, maybe you want to tell us why you have been referred to during the war as the craziest pilot in the Canadian Air Force, even though you really were in the Canadian Artillery, correct?
Yeah. The Air Force looked after my plane, but whatever I did, but I practiced. As the beer commercial says, practice, practice, practice. And that's what I did.
So you practiced being a daredevil maniac.
Well, that's what other people say, but not me.
Okay, let's go back to the phones. Let's see if I can find Jeff here. Morning, Jeff. You're on WCAU AM with Jimmy Doohan.
Hello, Jimmy.
Hello, laddie.
Want you to try inverse phasing.
What's this try-inverse phasing? Well, you got me, laddie. I don't know them by heart, you know.
You don't? Everybody else does.
I know that. As a matter of fact, there's a young expert that I call up when I don't know anything. I call him up in San Jose, and he knows every line of every show. Tell me, you say everybody else knows. In which show did I say the line, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me?
Oh, I remember that.
Which show?
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I
don't remember the name.
thought it was The Trouble with Triples. I'm probably wrong. Really?
Friday's Child.
That's where you called him, he called you a Denevian slime demon and a slime devil, and you got upset because he insulted the Enterprise.
I get very upset.
Very upset.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you for calling, Jeff. Appreciate it. I'm Steve Friedman. We're talking to Jimmy Doohan here. If you'd like to join him, and obviously a couple of thousand of you are trying to get through right now. The number is 839-1210 in Philadelphia and the suburbs of South Jersey. It's 541-1210. Linda, good morning. You're on WCAU with Jimmy Doohan.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Steve.
I just wanted to say hi to Jim. I'm sitting here with the most ridiculous grin on my face. He's able to talk to you at last.
I am too, by the way. I really am. He's that nice.
You've been a part of my life, Jim, for 20 years now, because I was there with the first episode, the 99, in September 66. I was 13 years old. And I have loved the show for 20 years and have loved the cast. And I sent a little letter to Steve this week. I just want to make a statement. I'm one of the few people who truly loved the first movie. I know there's a lot wrong with it. There's a lot wrong with it. But I hated the second movie, and I haven't been back to them. I haven't seen the third, and I don't intend to love the first.
Well, Jimmy's grimacing here.
You didn't like number 2? I must say, I agree with you. I think that number 1 was still a great movie, as long as they cut out about 10 minutes of the getting to V'ger. Okay? But number 2, to me, is my favorite, because mostly on account of the fantastic job that Ricardo Montalban did.
Oh, I've got to disagree with you. I thought it was, and I'm going to more blame the director than him. I thought it was very ranchy, very disrespectful. It doesn't sound good to me from the way Khan was introduced in Space Seed. I think there's more development of character in the television episode than there was in the movie.
Although he is somewhat deranged because of what's happened to his wife and his followers.
Oh, yeah, well, anyway.
But they don't follow through with. I can't. Kevin asked me to accept the critical mistake made. They changed the plot line in the movie from the television show.
Well, they will do that in an awful lot of. You know what they don't understand that they have such intelligent audiences out there in the hinterlands. They really don't. They do an awful lot of things. It's like Gene Roddenberry in the naming the Enterprise the NCC 1701. He just thought it looked good, you know, and had no reason behind it. And also the timing. What do we call it? Stardate. He put no logic behind it at all. He never thought the show would be as successful as it was, or is, and will be forever and ever. But, you know, you have to forgive these poor people, these creators and these writers, because they do make slip-ups. And when a show is examined from A to Z and beyond and all phases in between, they will make a few mistakes.
Well, it happens to be what I think happens to be a typical in which the ending of the Space episode hits.
You're talking about him being banished with Madeline Rue, who is a Starship Enterprise member, correct?
Well, no, the ending is that they banish them to a very harsh planet, and they make that quite clear that survival there would be what the best they could hope for. I mean, Chekhov wasn't even on the Enterprise in the first season when that show was there.
No, he excuse me, dear. Chekhov was actually never met Khan in the space shuttle because he was in the bathroom at the time.
Thank you for that.
See, you finally got that solved.
What I was going to say is that he says to him, why do you have something about why does he want to defend him? He left you on a beautiful planet. No way.
Well, listen, I'm sorry you didn't like it. Most people think that it's actually superior, but since you mentioned the first film, it was directed by Robert Wise, and I discussed this with Jimmy last night. Robert Wise and Frank Capra are my favorite directors, and hopefully, because of my producer Kevin Baskell, we're going to be interviewing Robert Wise in just a couple of weeks, and I know that Jimmy has a lot of respect for him, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's a great director.
Well, I think number one, it's an incredibly beautiful film. It moves me. With all its mistakes, it moves me greatly, and the second film did not. I had a very cavalier attitude toward life and death, and I didn't like it at all.
Well, the next time you run into some of the other couple of 100,000 Star Trek fanatics who are listening to the show and to Jimmy, they're probably going to beat you within an inch of your life. But meanwhile, we love you, and thank you for calling.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. It's lovely to talk to you.
Thank you very much, dear. It's nice to hear from you.
Pleasure, Linda. Thank you. I'm Steve Friedman. We're talking with Jimmy Doohan, Scotty from Star Trek. And, of course, Jimmy, you've got such an incredibly varied career. As I mentioned before, you're a Canadian, as is, of course, William Shatner. And last night I found out something that I'd never known before. One of my favorite people in the world, and the actor I most like to watch is Leslie Nielsen. And he's gotten to be somewhat of a friend over the years. You taught him. You taught him acting back in, 47 to 48?
Yes, I did.
Incredible.
Yeah. And, he's a great guy. Leslie and I get along. We've walked the streets of New York without a penny in our pockets, and we're laughing all the time. There, and the people will say about this, and they'll say, oh, they're those actors, laughing and scratching. No.
This is back in the very early days of radio. Television, Sean.
Oh, yeah, before even television. Well, television started in New York in 1949.
Exactly.
I'm talking about 47, 48, and pre-fall 49.
I see. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know if we have time for one more call before the news. We're going to try to get Mike in here. Mike, if you'll bear with us, you're on WCAU AM with Jimmy Doohan, as if you didn't know.
All right. First of all, let's say hello, Jimmy.
Hi there.
All right. I have a question for you. I really want to ask you something about your previous movie. But this is something that I've always been curious about, and that was this. What is the actual size of the Enterprise that you guys film in?
You mean the actual model size?
That you film in?
The model size for the television series was close to 13 and a half feet, and the model size for the movies is about 4.5 feet.
Oh, right. And second of all, how big is the Starship Enterprise supposed to be?
Supposed to be is size notwithstanding, it's supposed to be like 440,000 tons, which is as big as nearly the biggest modern tanker.
All right, and one last question, and that was this: that Cat is in any of the movies that you see upcoming or at all? Will the Enterprise is not able to land on a planet?
No, the Enterprise is not made to land on any planet. That's why we have the transporter system, and that's why we also have shuttles.
And in a couple of the episodes, some of the plots hinged on the fact that if the Enterprise didn't maintain its orbit velocity, it would literally disintegrate.
Oh, absolutely. It would burn up going into a planet.
And of course, that's what happens in Star Trek.
I thought there was one movie that you had, one episode, that everybody ended up coming down. They were somehow brainwashed, and they coming down to the planet. And do you recall what episode?
You're talking about the Paradise Syndrome, where they all more or less beam themselves down, except for Kirk, who stays up there because he's angry. It's the one where Mr. Spock and Mr. Scott and everyone else aboard ingests these spores or inhales these spores, and they decide.
No, I wasn't on that show.
Oh, you weren't on that show?
That's called Shore Leave, I think.
Well, Shore Leave is another one, but there's also the Paradise Syndrome, where they visit some colonists who've literally never done any work at all because these spores have inhabited their bodies and they just kind of goof off. And that's one where Spock says, "Don't bother me, Jim."
Well, thank you very much, Jim, and have a nice evening.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mike.
I'm Steve Friedman. It is just about 12:30 here on WCAU AM. We're talking with Jimmy Doohan. And Jimmy, I hope you can stick around for a while. It's a pleasure for us for you to be here.
Scott, can I take it inside? The Energizer is bypassed like a Christmas tree, so don't give me too many bumps. No promises. On your way.
Hi, I'm Steve Friedman. We are talking, of course, with the gentleman whose voice you just heard, Jimmy Doohan, here on WCAU AM News Talk Radio. If you'd like to join me talking to him, Scotty himself, the number is 839-1210 in Philadelphia and the suburbs, in South Jersey 541-1210. Jimmy, obviously, any of the people out there who's been listening to me for over a year through this show knows the number by heart. Certainly, all of the Star Trek fans do because they've known you're going to be on for a long time. So, again, thank you for being with us.
It's a great pleasure, Steve. As a matter of fact, I'm having an awfully good time because good people call in, and it's kind of fun to banter around with them on what they like and what they don't like and what they think of this and that. It's rather fun.
And of course, it also brings up something that we discussed last night: the fact that everyone out there takes it very seriously. And by the way, I am a Trekker, not a Trekkie. In other words, I was a more or less reasonable adult, or fairly reasonable adult.
At least you thought.
I thought I was. Yes, exactly right. At least adult back in 1966, and started watching the shows at their reception.
Okay. But now, tell me, was it September the 8th of 1966 that we started?
I believe it was. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The 8th or the
I just
7th.
want to. I can't remember the date.
Well,
I think that's when it was when we first flew in the air.
Which was the man trap, the one about the salt monster.
Yeah.
And then where no man had gone before, the one with.
That came later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that was the second.
But the first one we actually shot after we sold the pilot was the Corbomite maneuver.
Really?
Yeah, that's the first one we shot.
With Clint Howard.
Yeah.
Ron Howard's little brother.
Yeah.
Who must be, 30 today or 25 today?
Oh, easily. Yeah.
But the reason that I brought this up, last night we were discussing the fact that whereas all of the fans out there, and obviously there are millions of people around the world who love this show, although they take it very seriously, you people didn't have any idea that you were creating a living, lasting work.
No way. To start out with, like doing the pilot, that was a job. And then the first show was another job. But then as time went on, we were able to read 3 and 4 scripts ahead. And we'd be sitting there at the table, the big long table, and we'd say, wow, here's another good one, and here's another good one. And somebody else was reading number 7, and they were saying, well, you haven't read this one yet. And the stories were so good that really we flipped.
So you knew that it was something special at that point?
Yeah, but not as special as it turned out.
Well, I've been telling people for years, anyone who's ever asked me about Star Trek, what I like best about it. I'm a science fiction fan, and as I think everybody knows out there, including you, most people expect you, if you're a movie buff or a movie fanatic or a lover or critic, to come up with Citizen Kane as your favorite film, or something by Fellini. My favorite film is Forbidden Planet. And Gene Roddenberry loves the film because he bases a lot of, and this is according to interviews with him, he bases a lot of Star Trek.
I've seen Forbidden Planet and loved it. But, it's not science fiction for me, but my favorite film is Lawrence of Arabia.
Really?
And you know why? It's because that is the very first time I ever realized what the producer did. Sam Spiegel just did such a job you can't believe. And it was shown all the way through that movie. You know, he was able to pick the director, he was able to pick the stars, and they all blended so well together. To me, Lawrence of Arabia is, without a doubt, to me, the best film ever made.
And, of course, it won the Oscar for Best Picture in '62.
Yeah.
And Spiegel, particularly in his work with David Lean, such as The Bridge of the River Kwai,
he picked
marvelous. Exactly.
He picked the right director. And David Lean knew exactly what Sam Spiegel was talking about.
Exactly.
Because I can imagine them sitting together for hours and hours and hours and hours and talking about how this film should be done.
Well, since it's David Lean we're talking about, it's actually probably years. He's one of the few directors who ever literally spent years working on his individual films. Let me ask you this. Since you brought this up before we go back to the phones, because you have all these people waiting for you, since you mentioned that Lawrence of Arabia is your favorite film, what one role would you like to either have played, or, since, to tell you the truth, you're still, thank God, a reasonably young guy, what role would you like to play? You mentioned
Jack Hawkins' role.
Jack Hawkins, yes.
Yeah. Either that or one of my great famous actors is Claude Rains.
Oh, I love Claude Rains.
I love Claude Rains. I love Ralph Richardson. To me, all they had to do was open their mouth. I remember particularly Ralph Richardson in Anna Karenina. And she said she was going to leave him, right? And she was going to do this and that and that. And he, with a catch in his voice, said, and I will try to do my famous imitation of Ralph Richardson, which some of the, that's a famous imitator that was on Star Trek.
Oh, Frank Gorshin.
Frank Gorshin. We sat down at lunch one day, and I said, give me 30 seconds and I'll come up with Ralph Richardson. And he said, when talking to Anna, he said, well, maybe. No. And there were tears in his voice, and I thought, oh, God, you beautiful man. You know, how may it's okay for you, you young woman, to go off and have your fling and everything else, but what about me? You know, and the way he would, Ralph Richardson was just such a beautiful man to me. I loved him.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
And Claude Rains was the first Invisible Man.
Well, actually, that was his first role, and you only see him in and you only see him in the last, 4 or 5 seconds of the film.
I thought any movie was good as long as it had Claude Rains.
That was wonderful. Even The Lost World in 1960, where he played Professor Challenger.
Oh yeah, wow.
And he spent a lot of time here in the Delaware Valley before the end of his life. He really did, yes. Jack Hawkins played Allenby, if I'm not mistaken, in Lawrence of Arabia, but I haven't seen it since it's
General Allenby.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, listen, why don't we go back to the phones here? Obviously, in case you don't know this out there, every actor, particularly an actor who is so well associated with one role, has a whole career before he got to that role. And you have you literally given thousands of performances.
I did 20 years work before I ever got into Star Trek. And next January the 15th, I will be celebrating 40 years in show business. And only 20 of those are Star Trek related. So,
Well, maybe we'll throw a party for you on the air if we can get you back even on the phone. All right? Meanwhile, let's go back to the phones ourselves right here. 839-1210 in Philadelphia and the suburbs. In South Jersey, 541-1210.
Yeah, my favorite episode, because it's more scientific than all the others, because I'm only a science fiction fan in the fact that as long as you include lots of science, then I eat it up, and that is the Doomsday Machine.
Oh, yeah, really?
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, that was resurrected, more or less, for Star Trek, the motion picture in 78.
Yes. And, but I had one of the writers was working on Star Trek 1, the motion picture. He said, I agree with you. He said, I think that's the best episode you've ever done. But then again, see, to me, I don't believe in, I don't go for the monster bit at all in science fiction, such as 10-foot-tall lizards who speak English. Don't go for that at all.
Well, whenever I've talked about Star Trek and people have asked me what I like about it, over and above the science fiction aspect, I've always said that the interpersonal relationships and the genuine respect for human dignity is what elevated the show, because even when the stories didn't quite work, even when the budgets were tremendously limited, the characters emerged as real people. I know that back in '66, it wasn't very popular among a lot of southern stations because you had an Oriental and a black on the air, and then the next year you got a Russian. Seriously. Now, today you look back and that seems pretty naive, but at the time, Star Trek took a lot of gambles. It really did. And I guess that's why we all love it so much. Yeah. It's nice to see the humor of it, too, and all of you guys.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, Gene Roddenberry's intention was to be able to produce a show where they could talk about subjects, social subjects. But it was, on the space show, it was 300 years in the future. And you could talk about them.
Right.
Whereas in a contemporary type show, you couldn't talk about them.
There's a good deal of allegory in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it is amazing, and I'm sure that you've been pleased about this over the years, that so many good feelings have been engendered by the series. The series is pro-life, and it is not only human dignity, but courage, and it also is pro-human mistake, human error. It really is.
Well, yeah, that's true. I was trying to think of a play I did a long time, A Light Up the Sky, and I was not fully listening to you, Steve, because I was trying to think of the actors that I worked with in doing that play, and that was Moss Hart's play, right? Light Up the Sky. But who was it? The great actor who was Detroit, Nathan Detroit in
the film or in the...
No, on the stage play. What's his name?
Robert Alden?
No, Nathan
Tony
Detroit.
Martin?
No. God, I was trying to remember his name. Oh, God. Anyway.
He was so great with his hands.
Sam Levine?
Sam Levine.
God, you
Mr. Broadway.
Yeah, boy, I'm telling you, not only movies, plays too. But Sam Levine was one of the... And I was when I first met Sam, it was at Bucks County Playhouse in 1950.
Really?
Yeah. And he was there. We're doing Light Up the Sky, right? And Sam is, he's the boss, and all you have to do is watch Sam, because the rhythm with his hands was something to watch, right? It's like he was conducting his own voice, and the whole thing of what he was doing and everything. But if you wanted to know how to use hands, as I say, what the heck? I was only 4 years a student and a young actor at the time. Not so young, but at least I was young in the acting field. But Sam was something to watch, And when we finished that play, he said, "Come and see me in the fall." He says, "I'm going to be doing a new play called Guys and Dolls," right? And he said, "You can come around and see it any time you want to, right?" He says, "Just come stage door." And he said, "I'll get you in," right? And I saw it 8 times, right? Because if I had nothing to do, I'd just go around. Sam would get me a ticket and I'd see it. Right? Then later on, because after it had been on quite a while, he said to me, he says, they're going to start working on a road show. So he says, tell me what sort of a part you want. Right? Because he was important it for me. Right. I said, Sam, I'm not famous enough. Because your part is the only one I want. And he said, okay. He said, I understand where you're at. So I didn't get any part because I wasn't famous enough. No, nobody would have agreed to have Jimmy Doohan then 4 or 5 years to play Nathan Detroit. Because I was also not right for the part, but that's the part I wanted. Doesn't make any difference.
Well, you're certainly famous enough now.
Well, I know, but that's they're not going to play Carson Towns anymore either.
That's true. Although it's a great play.
But
it was turned into kind of
Levine was just one of the most gorgeous people, and I must say that there's certain people in this business that can bring tears to your eyes just thinking about them, and Sam's one of those people to me. You know what? I forgot all about the Scottish toast, so I had them beam me back down. Now listen here, I'm going to give it to you twice, and then I'll translate it, and then I'm going to ask Steve to beam me back up again, all right? So here it is. Here stayeth and was like us, Guy few, and there are deed. Once again. Here stayeth and was like us, Guy few, and there are deed. Translation. No one could possibly be as good as we are. If they were that good, they'd have to be dead. Now, thank you very much, and beam me out, Steve, if you don't mind. Good night, all. When I first went out to Hollywood, I was reading for a part. Oh, I was over at Screen Gems, and I forget the name of the producer. And I happened to mention Billy Gilbert, right? And he says, "Oh, God." He said that he died just, a couple of months ago. My tears just burst out of me. You know, right in front of this producer and everything else. And he was so upset. For sure. And he says, "Good God." You know what? It was not true. Billy had only had a stroke.
I see.
Right? When I had only been there, 2 months, and I was in this man's office, and he says, "Billy Gilbert is dead." And the very fact that I loved Billy so much, that the fact that I didn't even have a chance to say hello, goodbye to Billy, that the tears just poured out of me, and the poor producer, who was just about my age, was like, what do I do here with this actor, who loved this old man.
Billy passed away in the late 70s.
Yeah. No. Early 70s.
Early 70s? I didn't know.
Yeah. No, he was what a gorgeous man. I mean, you want a director, boy, he's better than Stanislavski by a long shot.
I know that you have had tremendous relations with
a lot of people.
With a great many actors. And I know
a lot
also
of great talent, too. Just, it's Dennis King. You know Dennis King? Yes. Famous old late 20s, early 30s matinee idol. What an actor. This man did things you couldn't believe.
Yeah, never quite made it as a leading man.
No, but, God, was he a genius? He does, do you mind if I just go on?
Please.
Okay. You know how you will say a state that could have fallen over backwards. Right? Okay. Dennis King does it on the stage. He doesn't say it. He just, we're doing a cheap old play, which is based in Sweden, and after the war, Dennis King is playing a lord who is broke, right? And there's a black marketeer there, and the black marketeer's wife, and they're supposed to be having a vacation in Sweden, and everything else. And for 2 acts, Dennis King tries to get some money from this woman who has a very rich black market husband. Right? He's unsuccessful. Gives up. Completely gives up. The start of at the very end of the second act, I think it is. He's chatting with her, giving up all thought of ever getting any money from her. Just chatting with her, and from something he says, she gets the idea that he's broke. And she says, you want some money? Right? And he says, there's a sofa that's facing the audience, and there's Dennis King to the left of the sofa, and guess what he does? Plunk. Just falls over back.
I love it.
Right? Now, you know what? You may not think an audience gets that, but they do. He didn't say one word to make one sound. He fell over backwards. Right? I tell you that the audience went wild for 5 minutes. And guess what? Dennis was lying there on the floor.
For the whole 5 minutes.
You're damn right.
I love it.
He's lying there, and you're actors, and as an actor, you're taught to You wait until the applause and all that sort of the laughter and everything else dies down and gets about halfway, then you start in again, right? Not Dennis. Oh boy, no, not him. Until the last. No, sir. He's down there. He's waiting. Silence from the audience. 30 seconds of silence. And you know what he does? He gets up, goes over towards the lady at the end of the sofa, and he says, in other words, I was speechless. Right? And you know what? I've forgotten the third thing he did, which was, you know, it had something to do with the name. Unbelievable. This man was just something else. And I also remember that, mind you, I was very young, and I was kind of a young English lord, too. We didn't have too much money, but I didn't have any to lend him, you see. And, but Dennis is a great jokester. He would walk down center stage and turn around as I was making my grand exit in a huff, right? And there he is, and he has opened his fly, and he has a hole in his pocket, and he sticks his finger out through his zipper, right? And he crosses his eyes and goes like this. You know, I broke up. But you can only break up if you like a person. And I broke up, and it was terrible.
I assume, of course, that you still love live theater. I know that you do.
Oh, I tell you what, if I could make a living at live theater, I wouldn't do anything else. I just don't make a living else. There's no way. You know, not for me, you know. Not for all sorts.
But you do still keep your hand in.
Oh, yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, I'm reading a play right now, which is about an old actor who doesn't know it, but he's auditioning for heaven.
And this was
Did I mention that?
You mentioned it before last night. This was sent to you by...
Sent to me by a young writer who was from Vancouver, but now lives in Toronto. And he... did you ever see the play called Billy Bishop Goes to War?
No.
Well, that's about the famous World War I Canadian air ace named Billy Bishop. He shot down something like 60, 80, 100 planes or something like that. And there's quite a lovely little musical about him, mostly played by the creator and another actor. And so anyway, this fellow said to me, he says, I understand that you were a little disappointed in not getting being able to get the American rights to this Billy Bishop thing. And I really was disappointed because it's a beautiful play if done well, you know, and I understand a lot of the companies are not doing it well. However, to have this fellow send me this play, which is beautifully written, and it's about an old actor, and he doesn't know that he's auditioning for heaven.
It sounds like a great idea, it really does.
Yeah. Oh, it's lovely.
And I also know that, although this is kind of premature, if it does work out and you do end up taking it on the road, you will only have about 4 million fans out there to make it financially successful.
Yeah, but that's lovely. But it's true. For my own satisfaction, I have to be on the stage. You know, I mean, I just have to do it because that's where the real thrill of being an actor is. And I would have a ball with this cat.
Well, I hope it works out for you. And if it does, will you let us know? Because we'll tell everybody where to find you.
Don't worry.
All right?
Oh, yeah.
Listen, why don't we take one more call before the news if we can?
Okay.
All right. Marcy, good morning. You're on WCAU AM. Thank you for waiting. And you are on with Jimmy Doohan, if I can find you here. How you doing? Marcy? He fell asleep. Whoops. Marcy, are you there? Nope, I guess you're not. Marcy? Is that you? Okay, I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that.
Okay. Hi, my sister Laura, my brother Greg, and I are all sitting here right outside of Washington, D.C.
Welcome aboard.
Oh, we have a couple questions for you. One of them is, I think you were here in Washington, last summer. We were wondering if you had any plans on coming again, because we missed you at the last convention, and everyone was still talking about what a wonderful talker you were, and everyone said you were so nice, and we were really upset that we couldn't make it to that convention. But
well, thank you for all those compliments, my dear. The next convention that I am at in close to Washington is the ClipperCon, in Baltimore in February.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Going to college in Baltimore, so I'll probably get you.
I'm a numero uno gesto.
Oh, great.
Okay?
Oh.
And have you ever tried that pizza? Okay, love. I'll see you then, all right? I'll see you then.
Okay.
And you remind me that I talked with you on Steve's show.
Okay, I'll let you know. I have another question for you.
Very quickly, Marcy.
Do you have any idea when Star Trek 4 will be coming out?
No, it'll take about a year, dear.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, and can I ask you one more favor before you go? A friend of mine, for my 18th birthday, she gave me one of the best gifts I ever got. She gave me the Star Trek 3 movie, and I just got her into Star Trek. She just started watching it early. She really loves the show. And I don't know if she's listening right now, but could you do me a big favor and say hi to Beth for me?
Hello there, Beth. I don't know who you are, I don't know what you are, but obviously it's very important that you get a good hello here from Scotty. All right, love?
Thank you very much.
All right, sleep well, dear.
Bless you. It's 12:58 here on WCAU AM News Talk Radio. I don't know whether we can get Bob in here before the news, but Bob, if it's all right with you, we're going to try. Morning, you're on WCAU AM with Jimmy Doohan.
Hi. I heard you interviewed on an earlier radio station, an earlier show in Philadelphia, and you said that there were two comedy writers hired to write the script for Star Trek 4.
Yeah, that's true.
Are there an intention to make it a comedy?
Well, why not?
I certainly hope so.
I personally would love to see a comedy because, you haven't heard my views on sequels. I do not like sequels. We never did one when we did episodes on the air. We were forced into one by Leonard's situation of not wanting to play Spock anymore. And halfway through the Wrath of Khan, he decided he wanted to stay alive, right? So we had to change the script and bring him back alive, and that was the basis of number 3. And now we're stuck with sequels. Why? Who cares? I don't want to have a sequel, and I would like the third movie that we did to be the last one we ever do. You understand the thinking of that? Because then we can bring back the Enterprise any old time we want to.
Yeah, I understand. So
Write to Paramount. Tell them what you like. As long as it's the same thing as what I like.
Well, we're going to have to run the news, but I thank you for calling. I really do. Jimmy, you've been kind enough to agree to stay for like another 15 minutes before you have to go.
Right. That's true.
Bless you for doing this. I know that tomorrow you're going to be seeing a lot of people in Delaware Valley at West Coast video stores.
I know, and but every time I look at these smiling faces that come up and ask for an autograph, it just it gives me not only strength, but an awful lot of joy just to be able to continue doing this because, I keep on thinking of taking a break, and then I don't take it because that's going to make some of these people wait 3 or 4 minutes. And I don't want to do it. I want to keep on going.
Bless you. I've heard so much about you over the years, and as I mentioned before, the people who are associated with Star Trek, who are instrumental in its success, all have reputations, all with the exception, and I'm not trying to be a wise guy here, and everyone knows that, of William Shatner. He does not have a nice reputation. But all the rest of you have such nice attitudes about not only all the people out here who love your show, but also about people in general. And anyone who's ever heard me knows that that's what I value more than anything else. So bless you, really.
It's a great pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure for everyone out here, and particularly for me. Let's go back to the phones while we've still got Jimmy here, and why don't you guys do the talking? David, good morning. You're on WCAU AM with Jimmy Doohan. How you doing, sir?
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Okay.
Hi, Jimmy.
How you doing there? Where are you from?
Philly, right here in Philly.
Oh, good.
I'd like to ask you a couple things. First of all, I'll make it quick, but as far as it's discreet to do so, could you talk about the third season of the show? I understand that for different reasons, the actors weren't really very happy during the third season. They felt that the quality of the script had fallen back on a lot of the fans, would seem to agree.
Well, I've already given him hell about this, but that is basically due to Gene Roddenberry. Is that Gene was not happy with the fact that NBC and Paramount were not did not pick up the series for, shall we say, a third and a fourth and hopefully the 5th year. And Gene has a habit of if he doesn't get his way, he goes off and pouts, and that's too bad because it's like building the front part of a house and letting the rear end of the house go to pot, and that's too bad. Because Gene, one of his great geniuses is the fact that he can take an ordinary script and with working with the creator of that script, come up with something brilliant, which he did with about half of the scripts in the first and second year. But in the third year, Gene disappeared. And he didn't come and help with this script or that script that was put in. And so an awful lot of the scripts that we had were just talky things, which didn't mean anything. They didn't have any true essence of Star Trek, which came from Gene Roddenberry. And as I say, I've already ticked Gene off about this. Because, if you have a job to do in the world, you just do it and do it to the best of your ability, and you don't slough off because somebody, turns their nose up at you.
Although I understand Gene is back in some capacity on Star Trek 4.
Well, yeah, Gene is I think he's quite content now, because he has some sort of a contract, which he obviously doesn't talk about, with Paramount, and he's quite happy with whatever he's getting now.
Right.
Right, and he is a consultant. However, Gene was not treated too well in the first movie as the executive producer.
Right.
Was stepped on many times by the Paramount executives, which is too bad. Right?
And over a long period.
And yet Gene is a very difficult man to deal with. He really is. And, and I've... had dealings with him, and I know him, and I've also told him. So, I'm not, saying things that he doesn't know about, right? Because if he were listening to me right now, he'd say, oh, God damn it, he's still talking about that, right?
I know you have a lot of respect for him. I do know that.
Oh, sure. As a matter of fact, I have in September, his star is going to be put on Broadway. On Hollywood. Right? Rapid Stars, yeah. And I said to his secretary, I said, let me know when they're $100 short of the goal. I said, and I want to push him over the top. So she called me last week and said, it got out of hand because she was in China for 3 weeks with her mother. And says it got out of hand, and so all you need to get him over the $3,000 mark is $32. So I said, here, I'm coming right down. I said, with check in hand, right? So anyway, that's the story of that. But no, I love him, and I'm not afraid to tell anybody I love what they're doing wrong, and I'm not afraid to hear it about me.
I haven't yet heard anything about that regarding you. Anyway, David, thank you for calling. I appreciate it.
I am no paragon. That's for darn sure.
Well, your character seems to be somewhat of a womanizer. Somewhat of an imbiber. Scotty is a real character.
I'm more of an imbiber than and I love a beautiful woman.
Oh, yes, actually, that's definitely true because last night we were together with a lot of people, but particularly Elliot and Arlene Stone. And Arlene happens to be beautiful, and my wife happens to be beautiful, and those of you out there who have met her. And I think that Jimmy will agree. Actually, he wasn't listening to anything I had to say last night because he was talking to the two.
As a matter of fact, I hardly knew you were there.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. By the way, your wife, Wendy, is also beautiful. And tell us, if you will, is it true that she was a fan of yours? That's how you got to meet her and marry her?
Oh, yes, absolutely. She came backstage when I was doing a play in San Francisco, and it was her birthday present from her girlfriend that she got 2 tickets to take her and her girlfriend to this play that I was doing. And she came backstage and asked for an autograph, and I just took one look into her eyes, and her girlfriend was prettier than she was. But I just took one look in her eyes, and I said, oh, boy, can't let her go,
And that's been...
And about a year later, we were married.
And this is 12 years ago.
Over 11 years ago, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Oh, yeah, that's something else.
Let's go back to the phones and see if I can find Brian here. Brian, you're on with Jimmy Doohan. He's being nice enough to stick around for us a little while, so be my guest.
Great, Steve. Great show.
Thank you.
Speaking of your beautiful wife, Jimmy, you can catch her on the MasterCard commercial. It's just terrific to catch you both on that really clever commercial.
Well, thank you very much. They've extended the use of the commercial, which is gratifying in a financial way. However, the thing is that my wife had never, ever done anything, never even read one line in a high school play, and so she stepped in there and did just a fabulous job.
Really, really was
And
great.
she is so elegant.
I just wanted to plug in for your fan club, too, while you're on the JDIFC.
Are you a member?
Yeah.
What's your name again?
Brian Locke.
Jimmy, you have
JDIFC. That's the my James Doohan International Fan Club.
and that's the original club.
We were going to talk about Anna Rea, who is the president.
Oh, boy, what? She's just terrific.
Yeah, isn't she great?
The fan club of all the stars, this is the one that belonged to because it's just a great service club. She's very active and it's very supportive of you, I think.
Oh, yeah, and she's a senior legal secretary for a very large insurance company in Seattle. A worldwide insurance company, but headquartered in Seattle.
Well, while you're on the subject, since you brought it up, Brian, why don't you tell us the address of the fan club?
I don't know. It's in Seattle, Washington. Maybe Jimmy knows her street address. It's
1519 Northwest 204th Street. And I forget the zip. In Seattle, Washington. 1519 Northwest 204th Street. Something like 98... Whatever.
We'll make it up, star date something. But in the meantime, we'll also find out from Jimmy, and if anybody out there wants to know the address, we'll have it in future weeks. Kevin Bass.
Well, Anna came on the set for the first or second year we were doing, and she said, "You don't have a fan club, do you?" You know, and Anna and I are the same age. You know, and I said, "No." She said, "You want me to organize one for you?" I said, "Well, what do I have to do?" Well, she says, just have to answer a bunch of questions, maybe once every 4 months, and and maybe send some pictures in and things like that, and so I did it, and man, I am still, of all the Star Trek people, I am the only one who has the same president that I started out with.
And this is what, 18 years?
18 or 19 years now.
Incredible.
great job.
And she is just beautiful. And it has won the prize year after year after year as the best run fan club.
It really is.
I love it. Brian, thank you for calling and thank you for bringing it up.
One more question. How was Leonard as a director? How was it to work for him as a director?
Oh, I tell you what, nobody is more of a pleasure to work with than Leonard Nimoy.
Really?
He's just absolutely a gorgeous person. He was as an actor, he is as a human being.
That's great.
Brian, thank you for calling. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Pleasure, Brian.
You mentioned that Leonard is a terrific guy to work for. He, at the time that he was offered the directorial chores on Star Trek 3, said that for years he'd been telling people that certainly he knew at least as much about Star Trek as any outside director, and of course he was right, because although Star Trek 3 is not as much fun as Star Trek 2, it's my favorite film of the series because it's much closer to the original feeling of the show. Star Trek 2 is a great deal of fun. It has a much better script.
What?
But Star Trek 3, which is obviously about birth and death and midlife crisis and all of this, is beautifully directed by him.
See, Leonard is one of those beautiful people who does not think so much of himself as the job he has to do, right?
Right.
And there are other people who we cannot say the same about.
Yes, that's true.
And let's not go into that.
I do know that Star Trek 2 more or less belongs to Bill Shatner, kind of. Well, I did for you last night my little impression of Shatner, and a lot of people around the country do it. You were talking about the beautiful hand gestures. Some of the actors that you worked with before, Sam Levine. And the hand gestures of William Shatner, as you know, are, we're not going to kill today. Like he's swatting flies or trying to dry his hands and can't find any paper towels. I'm not knocking him.
It's too bad. It's too bad that when you say something like that, it's too bad that it's recognized as something like that rather than the character that you're playing. Because if the character is played truly, you don't recognize anything.
Right, the mechanics are absolutely invisible.
Yeah.
And that's why your character is much more believable than Captain Kirk. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying it because you're on the show. I've been saying it for years.
But, it's like you take Roxanne Levine. See, I'm beyond looking at Sam and the character that he plays. You know, then I'm trying to examine Sam as the complete actor.
Right.
You know, and I'm saying to myself, boy, I mean, I'm talking about having looked at this character 15, 20 times or more, and then saying, hey, but look at how he creates that character.
Right.
And that's where the fascination comes in. See?
Well, obviously, if your role was
Sam was a natural.
of course.
I mean, all those gestures of his were just naturals. You know, it's a natural consequence of the character he was playing.
Over the years, all of you in the cast, or most of you in the cast, have also gotten the same kind of compliments. I know it's a little science fiction television show that wouldn't die. I mean, if you have to analyze it in those terms. But the truth is, your characters really do live for an awful lot of people out there. And at the Star Trek conventions, the truth is that, as you've mentioned yourself, there is so much writing and so much analysis and over-analysis that the characters have gone way beyond the original input of the series. They really have.
That's true. That is true. As a matter of some of the fans actually go overboard in their analysis of, shall we say, Spock and Kirk. You know, with coming up with the homosexual thing between these two characters. Come on, man, get out of the way. I mean, that's it's silly and ridiculous to. I mean, that goes beyond. There's some fan magazines that go around and they do nothing but analyze in this way. You know, and that's ridiculous.
Well, it's also kind of flattering for all of you because you've created something that still lives.
Yeah, but I mean, flattering? No, not in that way, thanks very much.
Okay. Let's see if we can get a reading in here before we lose Jimmy Doohan. Morning radio on WCAU.
Good morning. Hi, Jimmy.
I don't know.
I'd love to tell you about after your music. I loved all three of them. I liked the first one, but the second one I cried at the end for a good 5 minutes after it finished. But the series...
Don't cry now, darling.
...it restarted, but I remember it. I could remember watching it every week with my mom because she'd make us all sit down and shut up.
Good for her.
So, with the first movie, what basis was it started on? From what show in the series? I mean, I watched it, but was there any basis of it, or did it just came out of the blue?
The first movie?
Yeah.
It's based on 2 episodes. The Doomsday Machine, which is about the...
I remember that one.
Okay, that's the one that Jimmy said was his favorite episode.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one is called The Changeling with Nomad, who has his prime directive warped to destroying intelligent life as opposed to seeking it out.
Kim Prattner was his maker.
Yes, Kirk. And the name was Roy Kirk, wasn't it? I haven't seen it in years. I believe that was the name. Jackson Roy Kirk. And at the end, Nomad finds out that he made a mistake and destroys himself.
Now, my favorite was the one where you and D-Force Kelly was doing Tweedledee and Tweedledum. In fact, it was on this evening. With Harry Mudd.
Oh, listen, I like both the Mud stories.
The one with the dribbles?
Oh, and then the Tribbles. Yeah, that's another one.
Would you do your line? Because back in 1970...
What line was that? What line are you after now?
Where did... Mr. Scott, where did the Tribbles go?
Oh, they sent them into space, sir. And where did you send them? Well, I sent them to the Klingons, sir, where there'll be no Tribble at all. Right now. You got that? Is it on record? Okay, darling, I tell you what, I'm going to have to slip away because I need some sleep. All right?
Okay.
All right, and get to bed yourself now.
Okay, bye-bye.
No, listen to Steve a little longer and then get to bed.
Rita, thank you for calling. Bless you. It might be. Jimmy, this has been an absolute pleasure. It really has. I know that you only stayed like an extra hour longer than you planned on, and I guess we should take that as a compliment, but believe me.
I tell you what, it's been a ball.
Well,
Steve, and this is a great show. And I like what you're doing with it.
Well, I really thank you. I also know that tomorrow you're going to be at the video, the West Coast Video Store in Abington. That's at 1742 Old York Road from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Then I have lunch.
Okay, and then at 3...
This will be a hamburger someplace.
I'm sure that West Coast Video will find you something incredible.
Oh, yeah, they're paying for it. You know,
Oh, okay.
I know that, but...
Okay. From 3 to 5, you're going to be at the Cotman Avenue store at 2118 Cotman Avenue. And then from 6 to 8 p.m., you'll be at the Andorra Shopping Center in Roxborough.
All right.
I can't thank you enough. All kidding aside, I know they kind of tease me out there. They call me Father Freeman because I genuinely like people. You are a gentleman, and I've met an awful lot of quote-unquote celebrities over the years, and some of them are disappointing. Some of them, like Leslie and like yourself, are crazy and really, really kind people. Well, he says the same thing about you, believe it or not. And what I'd like to do is, if you ever make it this way again in this part of the galaxy, please pay us a visit.
Don't worry. I will.